Welcome to the AZ Political Podcast. I'm Jim Sharpe, and our headlines this week. Businesswoman Karen Taylor Robeson told KTAR's Mike Broomhead show it was Donald Trump's endorsement of her at a Turning Point USA event in December in Phoenix that inspired her to officially announce that she's running for governor of Arizona again. She lost the 2022 Republican primary to Kari Lake, and maybe she's hoping without Kari around, she won't drown in Lake's numbers. Sorry. Headline number 2. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays started her 4th legal battle against the Trump administration this week. And if you're playing along at home in this latest suit, Mays and 21 other AGs are trying to stop Trump's plan to cut indirect cost reimbursements that the National Institutes of Health provide to conduct medical research at universities and public institutions. In the previous lawsuits, Mays has tried to stop Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, from accessing citizens' private info through the Treasury Department. Another fights the president's birthright citizenship executive order, trying to deny birthright citizenship to children born in the U.S. to immigrants. And finally, one that challenged Trump's Office of Management and Budget from freezing all federal grants and loans, something the Trump administration says it no longer is seeking to do, at least not through executive order. And headline number 3. This is the 113th birthday of the United States political subdivision known as Arizona. It was on Valentine's Day in 1912 that we officially joined the Union, the last of the 48 contiguous states to do so. Admittedly, if I hadn't grown up in Arizona, I wouldn't not only know how to spell contiguous, I wouldn't know what that word means. My guest on the AZ Political Podcast this week is a guy who's been with us before, Sean Noble.
Great to be back.
Yeah, so let's...
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah, no, it's...
And happy birthday, Arizona.
Yes, happy birthday, Arizona.
As a native, that's a big deal for
Yeah, no, yeah, you're native. I'm not really native. I got here when I was 11, but I like to say I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could.
That's right.
Right? So Sean's got a heck of a background here. Founding partner of the political consulting and campaign management firm DC London, Sean has managed state and national issue advocacy campaigns, as well as presidential, Senate, congressional, and gubernatorial campaigns through political action committees. So working independently of those campaigns, but supporting them. He's also worked on ballot initiatives. He's a partner at the digital analytics firm A2P and a partner with the public affairs firm Compass Strategies. He's also the co-host of the political commentary podcast called Light Beer, Dark Money. I love the name. I did try to steal it, but the bosses said no. And I'm sure, what seems like a lifetime ago, Sean was the chief of staff to former Arizona Congressman John Shattuck.
It does feel like, one of the things that is fascinating about that, my tenure with Shattuck was 14 years, which is pretty long to stay with one member of Congress. It's now been longer. I've had more of a career beyond that 14 years since, it's been more than 14 years since I stopped being with Shattuck. I was talking to him the other day, realized it was just over 30 years ago.
Wow.
It was 31 years ago next month.
Wow.
That I went to work for him in his first campaign.
How do you look so freaking young?
Well, I was 12.
Okay, there you go. The youngest congressional staffer ever.
That's right.
In the history of America. So you're also the president and the founder of the group called American Encore, just commissioned a poll on the governor's race.
That's right.
So tell us 2 things. What exactly American Encore is. Well, 3 things. What that poll showed and why it's not too early to be talking about the 2026 governor's race.
It's always too early. American Encore is a free market nonprofit organization focused on the great things about America. And we called it American Encore back when we did a rebrand of the C4 that I was running in 2014, because we looked at where things were in America. Barack Obama had just been reelected, and he was kind of seemingly down in the dumps about America. And we said, look, America's best days are ahead. So let's not lose sight of the things that make America great. And let's focus on how we can make America great again. Right. We literally had Make America Great. We had the line from Reagan in our intro video in 2014. So I don't know whether Trump saw that and stole it, but who knows? Anyway, we stay involved in all kinds of public policy and political issues. One of the things that I looked at when Andy Biggs decided he was going to run for governor and announced officially, I thought, well, this is interesting because I looked at Biggs and I see someone who has a lot of experience. He was a state legislator. He was the Senate president for 2 terms. Then he was a congressman. And if he were to go into the 9th floor, to the governor's office, he would be the most experienced person on day one in Arizona history as a governor. I mean, it's just a fact. So I thought, well, that's interesting because one of the things is he's very closely aligned with Trump, and so he might be viewed as too conservative to win in a general. So I
have to point this out. Certainly more experienced than Governor Hunt, the first governor of Arizona, who had no idea that maybe we were even fully a state when he became governor. Right?
Good point. Good point. So I decided to do a poll because I knew that Karen Taylor Robeson was thinking about it. I did the poll last week. I didn't realize that she was going to announce this week. But we tested who would do better against Hobbs, and it turns out that Biggs, it beats Hobbs by 1, and Robeson is down 2 to Hobbs.
Is that within the?
It's within the margin of error. The margin of error is 3%, so it could go. That's all very close. But what it told me was that, and the most important piece of the data that I looked at from the poll was that 43% of independents supported Biggs.
Okay.
Now that is where. That's where the game is in Arizona. Republicans have a 7-point advantage over Democrats, but there are more independents than Democrats in Arizona. So where independents fall makes a huge difference on how things play out in a general election. So that tells me that Biggs is probably the best option for Republicans to nominate in order to try to get the 9th floor back.
Now, that's, of course, as all polls are when they're conducted. That is as of
the snapshot,
right now.
The snapshot in time.
Yeah,
it is early.
What can change between now and? We're still 18 months away from the primary, and 22 months away from the general election.
A lot can change, and to be completely honest, a lot will change. I mean, we just don't know what those things are. The way I looked at it, my analysis on this is most of the change that would happen probably benefits Biggs. Okay. And let me explain. Karen told Broomhead that it was because Trump said something about, if you run, you'll have my support, when he was at this turning point thing in December here in Arizona. That was the tipping point for her to decide to run. Well, what happens if Trump decides that he's going to officially endorse Biggs?
Well, and
does she then drop out because the impetus is gone?
Well, and that was going to be my next question: is does Trump change horses midstream and end up going with Biggs instead of Robeson? It wouldn't be the first time he's changed. Well, endorsed. The people he's endorsed.
One of the arguments I make is I don't know that he would view it as a change because I don't think he views it as an endorsement.
Okay.
The one thing that about Trump is that the endorsements come via Truth Social. And if it's written and posted on Truth Social, you can't take anything to the bank.
Like it's not in the scriptures.
That is right. Okay. If it is not written, it is not done.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think that this quote unquote endorsement she has is real at this point. She's leaning into it, as any candidate would, but the problem for her that it creates is that if that endorsement goes away, or if it doesn't materialize and it goes to Biggs, then her entire impetus for running is gone. And I mean, in all seriousness, it seems to me that that would be a time for her to drop out.
Her stated impetus for running.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So interestingly, Chuck Coughlin told me and LaDonna Harvey, who's my new partner on Arizona's Morning News, that he thinks Trump's endorsement really does belong to Robeson because of their similar background, business, as opposed to, Andy Biggs, who's, been a lawyer and a politician for a number of years. Does that really play into it that Trump, gets her? I don't think so. I think that you have to look. I mean, one thing that Trump looks at first is, are you a winner? Mm-hmm. She's not won any elections. Okay. Good point.
Biggs has won some
Several.
tough elections.
Yeah.
Several. And
Well, I don't know how tough they are running in that district.
Well,
That's a pretty red district.
But in the primary, his first primary, it was a very contentious primary. He won by, 21 votes. So he's been through the process.
Okay.
He's also been one of Trump's most loyal supporters in the House.
That is absolutely true.
And the fact is that, I mean, Trump and Biggs talk. I mean, there's a personal relationship.
Right.
I don't think Karen, dials up the phone and talks to Trump on any kind of regularity, if ever.
Yeah.
Right. So those personal connections and, those things matter. Now, Trump is his own person, is going to do whatever he wants. And so, Chuck might be right that the business person angle might work. But I think that the fact that most of her business is lobbying doesn't really put her in like the real estate mogul that Trump has been.
Yeah. Besides Karen Taylor Robeson and Andy Biggs, who I think are the only two official declared candidates. I mean, a lot of other people have filed the paperwork, kind of the exploratory committee kind of thing, at least for as it goes in Arizona. Who else is going to jump in? Kimberly Yee?
Well, I mean, she's obviously thinking about it. She had a very strong performance in her last reelection.
The most votes of any Republican in the state.
Right.
Yeah.
So she probably looks seriously at it. The question is whether there's really a lane for her. That's hard to say. She might decide to run for Secretary of State or something else. Mm-hmm. There's, the thing that she has going for her is that she's got a lot of options because she is a successful candidate. She's been a successful treasurer. She, if she doesn't think that governor makes sense in this environment, then she's got other options that she can pursue, which she would be fine at doing. I think
if you were consulting her, would you suggest that to her?
I would suggest she doesn't run if I was consulting her.
For governor. She runs for another different statewide office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless it's a major celebrity or someone who has more money than Robeson does. Mm-hmm. I don't know who else could get in and actually make a real splash.
I'm trying to think who else has more money than Robeson, first off. There's a lot of money there.
That's a lot of money. I mean, we don't know how much her husband's willing to part with, but apparently $18 million is a number. Yeah, that was last time. I mean, I don't know. But, if it were, someone who was, themselves an outright billionaire, that could make a difference. Jim Lehman maybe, something like that.
Although being the wealthiest guy in that race didn't necessarily pay off for him when he ran for Senate.
There's a lot of issues, and then the celebrity, if it were a Kurt Warner or Larry Fitzgerald,
I'd vote for Kurt Warner for anything. It was funny. I had to actually tell my daughter, because she got a picture with Fitz. She won an award from the ASU MLK breakfast, and Fitz was there, and she's like, "Gee, can I get a picture with him?" I said, "If you ask." So she went over and she tells him, "You're my dad's favorite and all that." So I had to impart to her, he might be my second favorite. My first favorite might be Kurt Warner, just because of what a kind of a dude he is. But I do love Fitz. But boy, Kurt Warner's got some pretty strong held beliefs, but I guess. He's probably making plenty of money working for the NFL Network.
Yeah, I think Kurt Warner has been probably the most pursued person to run for office in the last 12 years in Arizona, and I think he's plenty happy staying out of it. And I don't blame him.
Yeah, no, I don't blame him. Absolutely not. Anybody else that's been pursued in the past that may change their mind?
I don't think so that I can think of off the top of my head. I think the another interesting facet is going to be Andy Biggs' seat. Congressional District 5. That's going to be for that. That'll be a big potentially crowded primary.
So he doesn't have to go along with the resign to run laws because he holds federal office. Right. So he can. Right.
He'll stay there right till the end. So he'll be of their vote for Trump. Right. And
can he run concurrent campaigns?
No.
Okay.
Can't do that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I knew it was different for federal office holders in some ways, but not that one, I guess. Right. Okay. So let's take a look at the Democratic side. Chuck Coughlin again said he didn't think anybody's going to try to challenge Katie Hobbs, but I think part of that is the party discipline that the Democrats seem to always hold that advantage over Republicans, and that, Republicans, everybody's going to throw their hat in, and they're going to try to primary, successful candidates,
right?
Because they're not towing the line exactly of what they believe, either, as a social conservative or a fiscal conservative. But the Democrats, they do show some restraint. Does that come through, even though in some ways Katie Hobbs is not a very good candidate?
Yeah, she's not the ideal candidate. I think the Democrats could do better from a candidate perspective. The question is whether they will. I mean, obviously, the two that would be the most obvious to look at would be Adrian Fontes and
who's already said no,
and Chris Mays.
Yeah,
and I think one of the things that you have to give Hobbs credit for is she's taken it seriously, and so she's raised a lot of money. She's raised more money in the first 2 years than any previous governor in history.
Wow.
I mean, she's sitting on somewhere between 8 and 10
inflation, too. Yeah,
right. But the fact that, there wasn't any governors before that took it that seriously. So she clearly has laid out a marker that says, look, if you want to try to challenge me, there's a big pile of money you got to climb over to get there. So I suspect she will not get primaried, but that will be, it's still very early. And if there continue to be polls that show that Biggs or any other Republicans are, likely to beat her, that's going to start to raise some questions, because this should be a good Democrat year.
Yeah.
Because it's the midterm of a Republican president.
Right.
Now, as far as precedent goes, I mean, we have seen precedent go out the window in so many ways. Biden was president in 2022. That was supposed to be a big Republican year. It wasn't. So, there's just a lot of things that we think we know based on history that we probably don't, because things have changed.
I find it very interesting that the change in attitudes among Arizona voters, because, it was all about Trump in 2022, and that led to, practically everybody in the Republican Party saying, yep, Trump's the guy, he's the guy, he's the guy. And even, echoing some of the stuff he said about the election process prior to the election, saying it's going to be rigged, and they were saying the same things. And voters kind of turned on that.
Yep.
And they said, nope. And we ended up with, Democrats in the top 3 statewide offices. And now here we are coming up on the next gubernatorial and statewide elections, and people are still clamoring to have Trump endorse them. But I think they see it as a successful strategy this time,
yes,
and they didn't see how it was an unsuccessful strategy last time. But, and then in between we had, a lot of different things that took place that now Arizonans, for the most part, are kind of behind Trump.
Yeah.
Or at least he has the plurality of
there's no
voters.
question. And I mean, look, winning makes a big difference.
Right.
Right.
Everybody loves a winner.
And not only did he win a resounding electoral college victory, but he won the national popular vote.
Right.
That's a big deal. That's the first time since Bush did in 2004. And so the first time a Republican since Bush did in 2004. So that completely changes the viewpoint of how people, just casual viewers view Trump, because he does feel like he's got a mandate, and he's sure acting like it.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that, and I think you'll see this coming out in the next couple of days, Rich Tao is a pollster and focus group moderator who does a lot of work on Swing Voter Project, has for the last 2 cycles. And he, in the last couple of days, has interviewed Biden voters who switched to Trump in this last election here in Arizona, and to a person, they are enthusiastic about what Trump is doing right now in office. It's very he has their support, which tells us that Arizona, Trump has definitely fixed his image issues that he might have had before. He's got he's positive on the favorability, But especially in states like Arizona, where you had that swing, where he came back and won resoundingly, you've got a lot of the middle of the road independent voters who are, can go either way because they voted for Biden last time, voted for Trump this time. They're very enthusiastic about what they see. So that's, people like a winner.
Yeah. And, one thing you can always count on is Arizonans, they don't just toe a certain line.
That's right.
Man. We're always willing to go, I like what that person says about this, even though I'm not a big fan of them. And even though really like this person over here, they're just failing policies. And that's how we've all become kind of mavericky.
Well, and I think that, I give John McCain a lot of credit for this, that he is the person who really, it probably started with Goldwater, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Goldwater was authentic. I mean, what you saw was what you got. Mm-hmm. And McCain picked up on that, picked up that authentic banner and carried it. And I think that's been the key for success in Arizona in politicians, is the people who come across as authentic. I think that's why Lake lost, because she was not authentic.
Okay.
You couldn't really tell what her core was because she was just playing a part, right?
Yeah.
I think that's why Biggs is probably going to be better than Robeson and will defeat Hobbs, because he has more authenticity. He's just a regular guy who what you see is what you get.
And while I don't think of Hobbs as anything but highly intelligent, I kind of feel like her social intelligence level might not be at the highest level, and sometimes she's just seems very awkward, and it's
she has she I don't know whether she has a Kamala problem or Kamala had a Hobbs problem. But they share an issue, which is they have a hard time with coherent thoughts in a public setting. Well,
and it might be hard to come up with coherent thoughts when you are, a Democratic governor of a red state.
Right.
It's like, okay, I don't want to tick these people off, and I don't want to piss those people off. What do I do here? Right. So anything that you think we should be on the lookout over the next few months as we head towards first the primary in the summer of 2026, the gubernatorial primary, and then what to look for in the November election of 2026? Anything that you're like, you know what, this is going to be interesting to watch?
Well, it is going to be interesting to watch. Just because it is
right.
We've got a Republican president, you've got a Democrat governor. It's a midterm. I think the most important thing to pay attention to is how do Democrats respond to the fact that Trump and Republicans did so well in this last election. What is their corrective strategy? Because clearly they failed. So there is a problem. Mm-hmm. And the question is, do they recognize the problem, and what are they doing to fix it? And I think watching what they try to do to fix it, or if they don't try to fix it, is going to be the most interesting, harbinger for what happens.
Contiguous.
Yes, right. A contiguous harbinger for what happens in the fall of next year.
Wow. Okay. Hey, thanks so much, Sean.
Great to be here.
When I saw you put out that poll, I was like, let's have Sean come in here and talk about the governor's race, which is already heating up in February of 2025. Primaries not till the summer of 2026. And then, of course, we got the November election in 2026 to actually decide who our next governor is going to be.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Strap in.
Yeah, right. Get ready. Yeah, hopefully you're not strapping on a rocket pack. Hey, I'm Jim Sharpe. Thanks for watching the AZ Political Podcast, and we'll see you real soon.
Thanks for watching the AZ Political Podcast with Jim Sharpe. Click the box to watch more from KTAR News and tap the button in the middle to subscribe.